In the first weekend in May 2022, a couple of British citizens in Ukraine military for years find themselves captured and cynically paraded by Russian authorities. I find myself in the northeast of Scotland reflecting on how things have changed in 300 years and to talk about this guy, the Scotsman who amongst other things ran Ukraine for Russia. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Now, I probably wouldn't have made this video this weekend, but I have a weekend of stand-up shows in Aberdeen. A viewer did ask me to talk about this guy, and current events in Ukraine make him relevant to us today. And that's what's brought me here to Peterhead and the statue of James Keith. His is an incredible story. Born to be a Jacobite, he grew up to be so much more. In fact, in this short video, I can only scratch the surface of this extraordinary character, but you can get more detail in Sam Coole's book, Nothing But My Sword. I'll leave a link in the description. James Keith was born 8 short years after the so-called Glorious Revolution to oust the Stuarts. His parents were Jacobite nobility, and they named their child after the exiled king over the water. People often wrongly see Jacobites as Highland and Catholic, and neither are strictly true. This area was a perfect example of a hotbed of Episcopalian Jacobites, and James was born into that. As a child, he was educated by an Episcopalian bishop uncle before appropriately coming to Aberdeen University. Marischal College here in Aberdeen was founded by his ancestor George Keith, 4th Earl Marischal. And the urbane and intelligent young man was going to be a solicitor, but history got in the way. When Queen Anne, the daughter of the ousted James VII and II, died without heirs, the obvious solution was to bring back her half-brother James from the continent. But it was his birth that sparked the whole debacle in the first place. The London elites chose 59th in line George Elector of Hanover. The 19-year-old James was outraged that they would place a German on the throne, which by the time we get to the end will seem a wee bit ironic. James Keith rose with other Jacobites in 1715. But by the time James VIII landed from a fishing boat here at Peterhead on the 22nd of December, the previous month's inconclusive Battle of Sheriff Muir meant that the rising was effectively already over. Along with others, James Keith had to escape to the continent. It was a new beginning. You might even say that this is where his story began. This well-born Scotsman struggled to make ends meet, but eventually he was given a gift by Mary of Modena, the mother of the rightful king / old pretender, delete as appropriate. This meant that he could go to university in Paris to continue his studies. But before long, military punch-ups and Jacobite subterfuges were getting in the way of his homework. He was offered a commission to return to Scotland as a Jacobite cavalry colonel. When that particular scheme fell through, he offered his sword to Tsar Peter I of Russia. This was in June 1717. Now, Peter the Great said that he had no need of this young lad's sword, which is another irony we'll come back to. Continental subterfuge seems a long way from the seat of the Keiths here at Dunnottar Castle by Stonehaven, but James Keith threw himself into it. He and his brother crossed from France to Spain with money, messages and authority to buy equipment. He left his brother in Spain, came back to France in disguise and made his way to Paris. And it was from the Seine that he set sail, hooking up with his brother and Spanish ships, rounded Orkney and avoided British warships for what would become the 1719 Jacobite Rising, where Keith fought alongside Spanish troops and Rob Roy at Glenshiel. After months of hiding out in the mountains, he found himself back here in Peterhead. Now, remember, this was his part of the world. It was also a heartland of Episcopalian Jacobitism. If you're one of those people that thinks that Jacobites were Catholic Highlanders, then it's worth watching my conversation with historian and Jacobite expert Murray Pittock on my Patreon member page. Now, if you're not already a Patreon member, then you can sign up by clicking the white tab up there. You'll also get access to my recent conversation with Scotland's top archaeologist and Pictish expert, Gordon Noble, and loads more besides. Anyway, from here, James Keith made ship to Holland, from where he could travel through France to Spain again. But France and Spain were involved in the War of the Quadruple Alliance, so he and his brother were arrested and thrown in jail. Damn it! Managing to hide the letters of commission from Spain, which would have got them into even more trouble. He was broke again. But he and his brother hitchhiked around France, facing many travails, until he made it back to Spain and gained the position of colonel in the Irish Brigade in the Spanish Army. He was part of the besieging Spanish forces who tried to retrieve Gibraltar, so recently gained by Britain in the War of the Spanish Succession. But there was only so far a Protestant could go in the Spanish military, and to realise his full potential, Keith was going to have to reinvent himself again. Tsar Peter I of Russia had rejected the young James Keith, but under Peter II, he set his foot on the first rung of the ladder of Russian influence. In 1728, he gained command of a regiment of Russian guards. His courage, intelligence and diplomacy saw him rise to be one of Russia's most talented generals and regional governor for the Tsar in Ukraine. It was the University of St Andrews' Steve Murdoch who told us the Ukrainians said that they'd wished that they'd never met James Keith because they'd never have known how bad they'd had it before. And once he'd been made governor, he should never have been taken away from them. I'm not sure the Ukrainians will be saying that about Russian people ruling over them these days. But the Russo-Swedish War of 1741 meant that skills were needed elsewhere, and for a time he was Viceroy of Finland. He had a reputation for treating civilians in Finland extremely well during that Russian occupation. Now, that might be because he fell in love with a prisoner of war who'd been the daughter of a local mayor. Her name was Eva, and she became his lover, indeed the love of his life and the mother of his children. Later in 1741, there was a palace coup, and Elizabeth Petrovna installed herself as Empress of Russia with the help of a certain gallant Scotsman you may have heard of. James Keith was awarded the highest and oldest honour in Russia, the Order of St Andrew. That's right! St Andrew is the patron saint of Russia. Now, they say that the Empress had a bit of a thing for our Jamesy boy. Maybe that's the reason that when the Jacobite asked permission for her key general to lead Bonnie Prince Charlie's forces in 1745, she refused. How different would the outcome have been with Keith in control? Could it be that one of the most significant events in British history was decided in Russia long before it even began? That's something to ponder, isn't it? It can't be easy having an all-powerful empress take a fancy to you when you're in love with your former prisoner of war. Whether to avoid her advances or to gain his own advancement, in 1747 James Keith and his brother upped sticks and switched allegiance to the arch enemy of the Empress, Frederick the Great of Prussia. Frederick made Keith Field Marshal of Prussia, then Governor of Berlin. He was a close ally, confidant and forthright advisor, but also a loyal soldier to the fourth of his royal masters. This week, two Britons were paraded as pawns and threatened by Russian authorities in geopolitical sabre-rattling because they fought for Ukraine. It did make me wonder about the differences between then and now. The fluidity of borders, professional soldiering, and a switching of loyalties that would be questioned today, with the tracking, monitoring, border controls, electronic payments and loyalty demanded by current governments. In many ways, We see ourselves as having more freedoms, and yet in other ways, modern choices and expectations are far more constrained. Within 10 years of Keith moving to Berlin, the 7 Years' War had broken out. Keith was instrumental in the alliance between Prussia and Great Britain in that war. The man whose path from Jacobite soldier to Prussian field marshal started in Aberdeen because he wouldn't have a German parachuted onto the British throne, had reached the summit of Mount Irony that I promised earlier. He seems to have been loyal to those that he served, from the exiled James to the King of Spain, Russian Tsarinas and Prussian royals. On October the 14th, 1758, fighting for Frederick the Great, he laid down his life at the Battle of Hochkirch in what's now Eastern Germany. In 2008, in a country that since its flirt with Nazism has been loath to celebrate military heroes, that small village near the Polish border marked the 250th anniversary of the death of a Scotsman with a memorial stone outside its church. And yet I wonder how many people in Peterhead know who this is. If you'd like another story about a Scottish hero, then there's one coming up on screen now. In the meantime, ha mi an dóchas gon bí lama alive. Cheery and Rasta.